Okay, guys, here we go. Unusual chickens for the exceptional poultry farmer. Recording number 7. We are starting on page 127. Let me pull it up. Make that bigger. Whoops. 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 Okay. June 23rd, 2014. Agnes, Redwood Farm Supply Company, Gravenstein, California, 95472. Now, as we just noticed we just learned in the last part of the reading, Sophie has just picked up the chicken from a boy named Chris's farm because Gregory told her one of Uncle Jim's chickens was found. And it appears that the hen's chicks turned a raccoon to stone. Here we go. Dear Agnes, sorry to bother you, but I really need to know about Great Uncle Jim's Buff Orpington hen. There's a nasty stone raccoon statue at Chris Smith's farm now, and I don't have a good feeling about it. Should I ask Gregory to give this one to someone else after all? Sincerely, Sophie. P.S. Mrs. Smith killed her chicks. I'm sorry. P.P.S. I pushed the statue into the pond. P.P.P.S. Please don't say I have to kill the hen. P.P.P.P.S. Why do you sell dangerous chickens like that? Someone could get hurt. Redwood Farm. Dear Sophie. Buff Orpington, cockatrice hatcher, not cockatrice herself, should not turn anyone to stone, might glare a lot. Do not ever keep with any rooster, especially not Sue's. Collect eggs every single day and refrigerate next 30 days. Safe to eat after 3 days in fridge. Might contain sand. Watch your teeth. Very important. Do not give that chicken to anyone. Obviously, I don't sell her kind. They're very rare. Chicks are dangerous. I trusted Jim. Thank you for saving her. Agnes. Others. 3 speckled Sussex hens. Think that's all Jim had left. Oh, and here we have the Buff Orpington. Standard height, large round body, golden brown plumage, clean legs and feet, small single red comb, red earlobes. Large light brown eggs, frequent layer, very docile. Will often go broody. Excellent for raising chicks from fertile eggs. Now we see her back at the library. June 25th, 2014. Mariposa Garcia Gonzalez, Land of the Dead. Querida abuelita. I saw a flyer at the library yesterday for the 4-H poultry program. It had a picture of funny-looking chickens on it with feathery pom-poms on their heads. I didn't know what 4-H was, but I looked it up, and it's for kids to learn about farm things. And I want to learn about poultry, or at least chickens. It said it meets on the last Wednesday of the month, which is today, and it's for ages 10 to 14, which is me, and maybe also this boy named Chris that I met, the one whose rooster got killed. Maybe even that girl with a llama book that I haven't really met yet. And it's free. And abuelita, none of my old friends write to me. So I asked if I could go. When Dad dropped me off at the library, I was a little nervous. I don't really like meeting new people. And when I have to talk to a group, it's like my throat is strangling on the inside and I can't breathe. But I don't like not knowing anyone either. So I thought about the chickens and I went inside and asked Miss O'Malley where the meeting room was. She gave me kind of a funny look when she told me, the kind of look that made my stomach hurt. But I told myself that if you could be brave when you first came to LA, I could be brave here. When I got to the meeting room, there were already a bunch of kids inside, and they looked like they knew each other, and almost none of them were brown. But I figured that's how it would be. I saw the girl with the llama book, though, and she smiled at me again. So I took a deep breath and I got ready to answer all kinds of questions as soon as I went in. Who I was when I came here, that I speak English just fine, that great Uncle Jim was my great uncle, even though I don't look like him, that yes, I have some chickens, but not too much about the chickens. And then I heard a voice. I don't think I could have moved even if I wanted to. I just looked inside, and there, at the head of the room, writing stuff on the board, was Mrs. Griegson. She turned her head, and I ducked back out of the doorway. I left so fast I was almost running all the way back down the hall to the main part of the library. I know she probably wouldn't have chased me, but I sure didn't want her to see me there. I went and read about chickens in the green chair in the corner of the library. Miss O'Malley saw me, though. I know because she brought over the local newspaper and asked if I'd seen the article about Redwood Farm Supply. So I read it. Only it wasn't about Redwood Farm Supply. It was about Miss Grigson saying she'd always wanted to be the owner of Redwood Farm Supply, and now she's working to reopen it, making Gravenstein a destination spot for poultry lovers everywhere. What is she talking about, Abuelita? Agnes owns Redwood Farm Supply. She wouldn't sell it to Miss Gregson, even if she did sell that chicken hawk to her. At least I hope she wouldn't. I'm worried. I know Mrs. Gregson knows a lot more about chickens than I do. I know she wants my chickens too. I read about chickens until it was time for Dad to come pick me up. Then I went and met him outside before the kids or Miss Gregson could come out of the meeting room. When he asked me how it was, I said fine. Dad has enough to worry about, but I'm not going back to 4-H. Te extraño mucho, Soficita. Oh, and here we see the article, New Life for Redwood Farm Supply by Joy Ocampo. Unusual chickens have been part of my life's work ever since I first worked for Redwood Farm Supply Company, said Sue Gregson, who's begun the process to try to buy Redwood Farm Supply and bring the company back to life, putting Gravenstein once again on the poultry map. June 26th, 2014. Mr. James Brown, wherever you are now. Dear Great Uncle Jim, I think your chickens are doing okay now. I bet you miss them a lot. I give them new food and water every single morning, even though I need to use a lot of your jars to make sure all the chickens have plenty. There's a lot of poop too, but it's no big deal. I just clean it up and put some new straw in. I wish I had another block of straw for when the one in the barn runs out, but I'll think of something. Every morning I check the nest boxes for eggs. Usually there aren't any, and that's kind of disappointing. But this morning there were 2 eggs in one nest box, one glass one and one light brown one. I was so excited. I really wish I could show it to someone, but at least I can tell you about it. Here's a picture of the eggs in the nest box just for you. I hid them in the fridge in one of your old plastic containers. It was for margarine, and you can't see it unless you take the lid off. I don't think anyone will look in there. And I read to them every afternoon. I know they probably don't understand, but my cousin Lupe wants to be a teacher, and she says you're supposed to read to babies, and they don't understand either. So I figure it can't hurt. I haven't seen that Ms. Gregson lately. Maybe she gave up bothering us. I was pretty scared of Buffy until I got Agnes's letter. Now I know only her chicks could turn things to stone. But still, I don't have a chicken that can turn stone things back to life. And Agnes didn't say it wears off. I was pretty surprised you had her at all. But then I thought, maybe it's like zoos. I mean, you need someone responsible to make sure we still have tigers. You wouldn't want them to go extinct. I wish Agnes would tell me more about Buffy. Agnes seems kind of disorganized to be running a chicken business. She has a lot of problems with her typewriter, too. You think she'd just write things out, but maybe no one can read her handwriting, like with my grandmother. When I got Buffy, I got her from a boy who lives near here called Chris, who says he knew you. It makes me feel kind of funny, only not really funny, but sad, maybe a little mad to think about how he knew you better than I did. Anyway, he came over yesterday. He brought my crate back and I gave him his. Good thing I'd cleaned it out already. My dad came to find me while I was making sure Buffy was getting along okay with the other chickens, and he brought Chris back with him. I know. I worry about my dad too sometimes. He's awfully trusting. You'd think he never heard of chicken thieves. Anyway, Chris's eyes went big round when he saw Henrietta and the others. But they all had plenty of food and water, so I just kept hoping they would keep scratching in the dust like regular chickens. I figured he probably wanted to make sure his chicken was okay, even though really she was your chicken and therefore really my chicken. I remember what it felt like when I thought I'd lose Henrietta and I'd only just met her. So I said hi and tried not to be suspicious or mad. And after Dad went off toward the vineyards, we sat and talked about chickens for a while. Chris told me about poultry shows where you bring your chickens for everyone to see and talk about them in front of everybody and all the kinds of chickens that folks on the farm have around here. There's a kind called Silky, a little bantam chicken that only has fluff, no feathers. And Chris says they probably can't really see very well because they're so covered in fluff, they look like Muppets, not chickens. Big, like big lumpy chicks, I guess. And you have to keep them inside all winter or they get too wet and cold, even in California, on account of them not having proper feathers. I told Chris I didn't have to worry about that sort of thing, having a whole empty barn and all. And he looked pretty jealous to hear about it. He has a barn too, but it's full of sheep in the winter, which aren't nearly as interesting as chickens. But I guess you probably already know all about Silkies already, raising unusual chickens and all. Chris said you used to even take some of your chickens to the poultry shows. I wanted to ask if he'd ever seen them do anything unusual or why nobody noticed, but I'm not sure how well he knows Miss Gregson. I decided I better get to know him first. I kind of wanted to take my chickens to a show until I found out you have to talk in front of everybody, and sometimes it costs money to show them. Now I just want to see other people's chickens. Anyway, it turns out that Chris likes to draw. He drew a picture of my hen house on the stumps, only it wasn't really realistic because he drew it walking through the woods like the stumps were feet. And you know that's impossible. It makes me laugh though. So he drew another with Henrietta leaning out the front door like a pilot and Buffy clinging to the roof. We've decided to make a comic book, and I'm going to do the writing. Here's a copy of the first part for you. See what I mean? He's pretty good. Comic by Chris, Crazy Chicks. Chickfeld, why couldn't the chicken find her egg? I don't know. Why couldn't the chicken find her egg? Because she mislaid them. Ha ha ha. I didn't tell him anything more about the chickens, though. Don't worry. I don't think he'd tell, but I know I have to keep them safe. Love, Sophie. P.S. Chris showed me how to wind up a rope swing that my dad made and get on and let it spin around and around until you're so dizzy you feel like you might throw up and have to lie down until everything stops moving. It was great. P.P.S. Since you've left us so much rope, I'm going to see if my dad will make another swing in the other tree for when I have friends over. P.P.P.S. Chris says you can grow sunflowers from sunflower seeds, and then you can save the seeds from the sunflowers for your chickens. So you plant one seed and harvest a whole bunch. I'm going to plant some right away. I bet that's how you got so many. P.P.P.P.S. When I told Gregory I got your chicken from Chris, he just nodded and said, "Good," and asked if I had any letters to mail today. There they are, playing on the swings. Let's do one more. June 26, 2014, Agnes, Redwood Farm Supply Company. Dear Agnes, when I went to the feed store today after I took my library books back, Jane, who works there, asked if by any chance I'd found any small glass eggs around Great Uncle Jim's farm. She says he used to sell them to the feed store to fool people's chickens into laying. I guess he told her once he had lots left over from a project a long time ago. Well, I don't know about you, but that sounds like Henrietta's eggs to me. Would it be okay if I sold them to the feed store as long as I didn't say where they came from? Great Uncle Jim had so much junk around that no one would know but me. Really. No one could make them hatch if I refrigerated them first, could they? I've collected a few, and I found some more in one of Great Uncle Jim's blue jars in the back of the cupboard under the sink. I didn't know for sure if he'd put them in the fridge, so I put them in just to be sure. Jane said they'd pay me $1 each. And with 4 chickens now, that food is disappearing a lot faster than it used to. Jane gave me a flyer for the town poultry show, too. It's less than a week away. She said it was too late to enter chickens into the show, but I should come anyway so I'd know what to expect at the next one. Jane's nice. I didn't tell her it wouldn't be a good idea to bring my chickens to a show. She said something funny, though, so I thought I'd ask you about it. When I asked her if Redwood Farm Supply would be there, she told me they'd gone out of business years ago. Well, I knew that wasn't true, but I wonder if maybe you only secretly sell chickens now because of Miss Griegson and the typewriter and all that. So I kept my mouth shut. I figured you'd appreciate that. I think I might go to the show even if I can't bring any chickens. I've never been to a poultry show before. I wonder if Chris will be there. I guess he probably knows everyone and all their chickens too. Still your friend, Sophie. P.S. Did you see that article about Miss Griegson wanting Redwood Farm Supply? What was that all about? You wouldn't sell it to her, would you? P.P.S. Please do let me know right away if I can sell Henrietta's eggs. Hmm, what is this about Redwood Farm Supply having gone out of business? Now it's like a super secret store. That is where we are going to stop today. I'm really curious. What's going on here?